Hi guys, welcome to Enterprise Coworking Community Spotlight. This month we're talking to Chris Owen with Madre Coffee Collective. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me and talk about your company. Hi Chris, why don't you introduce us to Madre Coffee Collective and what your role is in the company?
Yeah, thank you so much, Diana. Well, my name's Chris Owen. I'm the founder / head broom sweeper of Madre Coffee Collective. Roast the coffee, travel the world to source it, try and bring it back to the United States and deliver people delicious, sustainably sourced coffee. And it's a lot of fun. It's a project that I've had for about a year now. It began as I had a job where I used to cover 7 states and I traveled just about every week. And coffee shops were a little bit of a safe haven for me. I'd get to know the baristas, and when I'd come back, I could kind of set up shop and get work done. And I just always had this passion for coffee as a conversation. Like, Diana, if I ask you, hey, you want to grab coffee? I'm really asking you to connect, right? Like, it's a medium for us to connect. And so that's wherein a lot of my passion lies. And so then I started traveling last summer, and I ended up in Guatemala with a good buddy of mine, Mark Harrington. And we just like a military drop, we dropped in Guatemala and we started asking questions. And we ended up meeting some suppliers. We ended up finding a black sand beach, and we found this amazing coffee through our hostel owner. And I set up a meeting with him. I rented an ATV and drove it 30 minutes across Guatemala. And that's how sort of our sourcing began. So it's just been a really cool adventure to try and connect people with a good that, it's easy to just buy off the shelf and never think about twice, and try to tell the stories of our farmers too.
Wow, that sounds like an incredible adventure.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
About that in a book you write.
I probably need an editor, but I'm down.
How did you come to find Enterprise Coworking?
Yeah, so I love Rhino first and foremost, and so just the energy there, even the mural behind you, I think speaks to the energy of Rhino. And so I was at Crema, which is one of my favorite coffee shops in all of Colorado. Amazing, Joanna and that team, they really take a lot of pride in what they offer. And I was in there, and I saw a friend who came and said hi, and I was catching up. Her name's Whitney. And then she goes, oh my gosh, Kevin's right here. He's with 1 Million Cups. Have you ever heard of 1 Million Cups? And I was like, no, I haven't. And so she introduces me to Kevin Bucher. Am I saying that his last name correctly? And Kevin and I got to Rapid, and he invited me to come join 1 Million Cups. And so I came, and it's this really cool group of people that have startups. They share ideas, they support each other. It's great presentations. And that is held at Enterprise Coworking. And so after being in the building, I decided to work there that day, and got to work with, just kind of the energy that was there, set up shop. And I just love it. It's a really great place to be surrounded by other people that are doing similar things, which is either working remotely or trying to build something or looking to lean forward into a community, versus just hoping that things come to you from your home in the sky, really being out and about. And it's been great. I really loved it. I can't wait to get back. I miss everybody.
Yeah. Have you been to their virtual meetups?
The 1 Million Cups I have. Yeah, I've been to a couple of them, and it's like everything. It's just interesting trying to navigate what that big room of communication looks like when you're offering feedback. But it's growing consistently. I think also getting presenters is something they're navigating right now, because people are, some people are putting their businesses on hold. Others are trying to creatively grow. But yeah, they're still doing their thing and trying to provide a platform for entrepreneurs. And, it feels like soon we'll be, together and hearing those in person.
Yeah, I think so too. And I can't wait to have 1 Million Cups back here. They meet here every Wednesday morning for 1 hour. It's a great networking opportunity. So, how was your team affected by the COVID-19 virus? And what has your team put in place to weather the storm so far?
Yeah, so we're a supply. My first gig, I was on a plane to London. I met a guy named Jason, and he was reading Happiness Hypothesis, to go back to our conversation about books. Wonderful book about the science and just sort of culture of happiness and across the world and time. And we started rapping about that book, so I just finished it. And then we started talking about fasting and podcasts. And I was like, is this guy trying to front, or is he like really this guy? It was like, you never it's on a plane. Yeah. And I was like, what if he is? What if he is this guy? And sure enough, he goes, you have this coffee dream. I have an office with 50 people. When you get back to the States, because we're going to London, why don't you call me and we'll put your coffee in the building. We'll see what happens. I was like, okay. And so my first gig was like a pop-up at his office, and I like have all my canisters. I'm making lattes, and I do that, and I end up doing that again, and for another friend in the tech center. And I realized like I don't like the pop-up model. And then I had another friend ask me to supply their office. She goes, hey, we have 50 people, but we like your coffee more than ours. Would you be interested in supplying us? And so that's when the office supply model was born. And that is really probably about 70% of our business up to COVID was this office supply. And obviously no one goes to the office anymore. So that took a huge hit. And so we had to really pivot to much more of a consumer strategy at that point. Because 70% of the contracts that we have are still on hold because, capacity is 10% or people are working remote, et cetera. So the consumer strategy was something that we kind of leaned into. We formed a coffee club where people could still travel the world, experience different coffees of the world every month in a coffee club. And that was cool for a consumer that's looking to gain education as well as a sensory experience and still try the Madre coffee. So that was a really big development for us. We created a coffee quiz to try and match people and created a marketing campaign around like swipe right for your perfect match of coffee and created this fun, like basically quiz that takes your taste, takes how you make your coffee, how much coffee you drink, and tries to match it with what we believe will fit your taste profile. And so that, and then lastly, education. We've leaned into the education. So we've got a couple videos on the website about, there's an example of this, the coffee taster's wheel from the Specialty Coffee Association. People can take a look at that and see how the world classifies coffee flavors, or how to make your own cold brew at home. There's a video on that. Or how to make your own pour over at home. There's a video on that. And so leading into the education of the consumer model, still touching base with our, suppliers. We had a conversation with Pinwheel Coffee, who carries us over in the Highlands. Really cool nonprofit with a school in the mix of their coffee shop. Awesome place. And they're getting their curbside up and going. There's maybe some opportunity around additional patio seating per the governor's recent order. So, there's some potential to, maybe see demand go up for those guys. And yeah, just trying to still support our suppliers and our retailers, and then making sure that we have the consumer in mind as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sounds like you guys are really coming up with amazing creative strategies to keep yourself strong and in the game. What are some exciting projects you're working on, and what are you excited about for the future for Madre Coffee Collective?
Yeah, so I had a meeting yesterday with a break room supplier called Blue Tiger, and they do snacks and beverage service and machinery. And so one of the things that you run into as you grow a coffee supply business is people are sometimes accustomed to having machines. Like, hey, I'm gonna get that beautiful touchscreen in the hotel. You're just gonna give that to me, right? Whoa, hold on. So, we're looking for a partner to try and help us on the supply side. That would be machine expert and maintenance tech. And because that's just, we're here to find the best coffee in the world for you, source it and bring it to you and roast it to perfection, really is the goal. And so the machinery part of it, then the like snacks and beverages, that's just not part of the model. And so having a meeting with them and now starting to distribute through them is super exciting. Kind of finding those partners that handle the logistics while we continue to find coffee. We've got a couple of our co-working spaces that we support opening up. So we're excited to see people just gather. And there's a couple breweries up by where I live in Tennyson that are currently sampling some coffees for the next round of our coffee beer series. So we always do about every quarter a little coffee beer release party happy hour. We just invite the community out and get to showcase the story of a local brewery, have a fun coffee beer, and then just have a blast of it. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, so super excited to kind of see which coffee the breweries go with, and then launch the happy hour. I'm my heart is hoping July 4th is sort of an okay date where people maybe are starting to feel comfortable about stepping outside. Hopefully sooner, but I feel like that's a conservative estimate-ish. But yeah, so we're kind of just trying to put some things on the map to where we can create some excitement, create some engagement, tell the story of, you know, some of our local brewery partners, and yeah, bring people together.
That's awesome, Chris. What makes Madre Coffee Collective different from other organizations in your area?
What we really pride ourselves on is like going and knowing our farmers. And so that's, you know, there's 5 parts of our business is how I look at it. You've got sourcing, which is a blast. You're in Central America, speaking Spanish a lot of times, and getting to know these farms that are multi-generationals. They work with, you know, cultures and tribes of the coffee pickers, the fruit pickers, and just understanding what their washing process is like, what their logistics look like. So that's a blast. And that to me is like a key part of what we do is we're down there learning those stories and bringing that coffee back. Artisan roasting, I think there's a lot of fantastic roasters in Denver and across the world. We obviously understand that that's a massive part of creating the flavor and bringing out the notes. And the third thing I would say in terms of what makes us different, separate from the model, is we are single origins. So we are giving you a farm or a region's coffee. We're not saying, oh, we've got a little bit of this left over, a little bit of this left over. Let's just call it Grand Tetons and go with it. I don't know if there's a Grand Tetons coffee. If there is, I'm sorry. But the idea is we're trying to provide an experience whereby you can pick out the intricacies of flavor that come from different regions of the world. And so that combined with telling farmer stories, I believe is a huge difference, because now you're starting to realize that Guatemalan coffee is volcanic grown. Therefore, there's a certain earthiness, like a Malbec wine, that comes through the flavor profile and dark chocolate. Or Brazil, a little bit of a higher altitude in the region that we grow with, and some notes of like almond or coconut. And so the idea is we're trying to share that there are certain regions, much like wine, I think is the easiest example, where the soil produces distinct flavors. Learn the stories of our farmers, combine that with single origins, and provide that to the consumer with the education.
Amazing. What else would you like our viewers to know about Madre Coffee Collective?
Yeah, that we are a community. You know, the idea of the word collective is let's just engage together and create it. You know, I think that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you're kind of looking to get the most bang for your buck in different ways. So you're to finish the business model. You've got sourcing, roasting, brand development, and social media, which is, you know, that's a community-based initiative. Then you've got, you know, sales, and you've got delivery and distribution. But the idea of the collective is let's all come together and share ideas or collaborate. I mean, most people drink coffee. Most people like to get up and go to work and have great days. How do we find a way to like support people as they go ahead and do that and give them the early bird gets the worm? Or, you know, we even had an event with Mythology Distillery, another really great local business, where we had espresso martinis and kind of had a fun event around it with them. So the idea is like we just love sharing the other stories of local businesses, collaborating with our business owners. You know, I have a little interview series as well where I love to share your story, and you know what makes you guys unique in the culture you built. And so I would say we'd love to engage the community and kind of promote you guys as well. So love to hear your stories too.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris, for sitting down with me today and telling us a bit about Madre Coffee Collective. We're so excited to have you part of our community at Enterprise Coworking, and we're hoping to see big things from you in the future. So for more information on Madre Coffee Collective and Chris, you can go to his website, and that is madrecoffeecollective.com.
Madrecollective.com. Save you some keystrokes.
Check it out, guys. And be sure to say hi to Chris once you're in the space. All right, thank you.